You thought it was love. You thought it was the promise. You thought he was the one, but then your heart shattered. Not because you were weak, not because you were foolish, but because God stepped in, and what felt like betrayal was actually deliverance in disguise. When God breaks your heart, it's not to punish you. It's to pull you out of what was never meant to carry your purpose. Listen, he broke her heart to save her soul. You see, sometimes God will hurt your feelings to heal your future. Sometimes he will remove the person your soul craves to preserve the woman he designed. Because what you want can destroy what you carry. And when you are a woman of destiny, you don't just attract love, you attract distraction. And God, in his sovereignty, will sever ties that were never sanctified. You were crying over a man who never had the capacity to cover your calling. You were begging God to bring back what he never sent. You were holding on while heaven was saying, let go. The breakup wasn't the enemy, it was a divine rescue mission, because the longer you stayed, the more your soul was silenced. And God won't let the seed of his purpose drown in the soil of compromise. You thought he left? No. God took him because you were so loyal to a lie that only divine force could deliver you. You were loyal to a man who loved your potential but feared your power. And God said, enough. She belongs to destiny. She belongs to purpose. She belongs to me. Sometimes God will let the wrong man break your heart so you'll finally open your eyes. Because you can't walk in divine identity while clinging to counterfeit intimacy. Some of you have mistaken attachment for anointing. You've confused emotional comfort for covenant. But God is not interested in you being comfortable. He's interested in you being consecrated. And it takes strength to detach. It takes courage to walk away from what once felt right. But when heaven reveals, you must release. Detachment is not weakness. It is wisdom. It is knowing that your worth does not beg. Your worth does not chase. Your worth stands. There's a reason he allowed it to fall apart. There's a reason you couldn't fix it. There's a reason the man you thought would love you forever couldn't even see your value. That wasn't a rejection. It was a redirection. That wasn't abandonment. It was alignment. You cannot be a woman of purpose and still be a prisoner of emotional dependency. You cannot carry divine legacy while nursing toxic connections. And God will always interrupt your plans when they interfere with his blueprint. Yes, he broke your heart, but he saved your soul. And your soul matters more than your feelings. You were weeping over the man who left, but heaven was rejoicing over the woman who was found. God will never allow what's his to be bound to what cannot honor it. So he tore it apart, not because you weren't enough, but because what you were becoming was too much for him to handle. You were rising and he was content with comfort, and you can't fly while tied to the ground. Stop crying over who walked away. Start praising God for who couldn't stay. Because anyone who leaves when God starts elevating you was never meant to be part of the throne room. God allows heartbreak not to destroy, but to deliver. Pain often comes to protect purpose. When God sees that your heart is entangled in something that is beneath your destiny, he does not sit back and watch you drift further away. He intervenes. And that intervention often comes through pain. It feels like the world is falling apart, but in reality, he is holding your world together by removing the very thing that was silently destroying you. You didn't see it. You were emotionally invested, spiritually distracted, and perhaps even convinced that this was the right man. But God, in his infinite wisdom, saw what you couldn't. He saw the late night tears that would come years from now. He saw the silent compromise of your worth. He saw how this connection would slowly suffocate your calling. So he broke it. And when God breaks something, it's not to damage you, it's to direct you. It's to detach you from the person who had access to your heart but not the capacity to honor it. He'll let it collapse to preserve what you were born to become. He knows that some things must fall apart before they destroy the foundation. He knows that some people are seasonal, sent only to teach you discernment, not covenant. Pain becomes a teacher, not a punishment. It awakens you. It opens your eyes. It forces you to ask hard questions. Was this love or was this dependency? Was this God ordained or self-chosen? And in the process of heartbreak, God delivers you, not just from the person, but from the illusion. He delivers you from settling, from performing, from shrinking. He delivers you from yourself because he loves you too much to let you stay in what would eventually strip you of your divine identity. Pain is often God's most urgent language when purpose is at risk. A broken heart can be a divine interruption. He disrupts what distracts. There are times in life when we are so emotionally invested, so convinced that a relationship is right, that we miss the gentle warnings of the Spirit. We override discernment with desire. We silence wisdom because of emotional need. And when we are too deep in something that has no future in God's plan, he will step in. Not always with a whisper, but sometimes with a break. That heartbreak you experienced wasn't just a painful moment. It was a divine disruption. God saw that the relationship was becoming an idol. That your time, your energy, your emotions were being drained in the wrong direction. He saw that what was meant to be a chapter was becoming your whole book. So he interrupted it, not out of cruelty, but out of mercy. Divine interruption is often wrapped in disappointment. What you thought was a loss was really heaven's way of correcting your course. Sometimes God has to shake the very foundation of your emotions to get your attention. Because he knows that the longer you stay tied to what distracts you, the further you drift from what defines you. He doesn't just want your happiness, he wants your wholeness. And sometimes wholeness begins with a disruption. God is not in the business of preserving attachments that pollute your anointing. So when he breaks your heart, he is not just removing someone from your life, he's removing a weight from your destiny. That man may have captured your emotions, but he was slowly corrupting your clarity. And God will not allow confusion to sit in the same space as calling. He interrupted your plans to restore his purpose. He disrupted what distracted you because what you were focused on was never worthy of your future. The spiritual detachment is the evidence of spiritual maturity. You let go when you know your worth. There comes a moment in every woman's journey when she must choose between emotional comfort and divine calling. That moment doesn't come with applause or clarity at first. It often arrives quietly, in the silence after heartbreak, in the stillness where you finally realize that holding on is costing you more than letting go. And in that moment, when you release what no longer aligns with your identity, you don't lose, you rise. Detachment isn't indifference. It's revelation. It means your spirit has finally caught up with your value. It means you have stopped begging for love and started walking in truth. Maturity is not how long you've known God, it's how willing you are to trust him when he says, this is not for you. That man may have stirred your feelings, but he couldn't cover your future. And spiritual maturity sees beyond chemistry and craves purpose. When you are whole, you no longer need a relationship to validate your identity. You understand that God's love completes you, and anything else is an addition, not a foundation. Letting go becomes easy when you know what's at stake. Your peace, your calling, your spiritual authority. They're too expensive to be compromised by emotional attachments that lack eternal value. You stop chasing closure because your spirit already has clarity. You no longer plead to be chosen because you've already been appointed. You detach not because you don't care, but because you finally do. You care about your purpose, your growth, your future. And in that detachment, you find divine strength. You discover the power of boundaries birthed in revelation. You walk away, not in bitterness, but in wisdom. Because spiritual maturity always knows when it's time to let go and why it must. The wrong man can delay your destiny. God removes who can't go where you're going. Every person in your life is either pushing you closer to purpose or pulling you away from it. There is no neutral presence in destiny. When God places a calling on your life, he begins to orchestrate the people, places, and timing that will align with that calling. But when you attach yourself to someone who does not carry the grace to handle your growth, you begin to drift. Slowly, silently, your spiritual momentum is hindered, not because you aren't anointed, but because you are entangled. The wrong man doesn't always look wrong in the beginning. He may speak the right words, show affection, even express belief in your dreams. But God doesn't evaluate compatibility based on surface. It's based on assignment. If a man cannot cover you in prayer, steward your vulnerability, or walk with you in vision, he becomes a burden to your breakthrough. And what you call love, God may call a liability. God in his mercy will not allow you to permanently attach to what can sustain your future. So he steps in and removes. Not out of anger, but to preserve the timetable of your purpose. Because destiny delayed is not just time wasted, it's impact missed. The enemy often doesn't destroy through obvious attacks, but through subtle delays wrapped in relationships that look safe. The wrong man may not harm you directly, but he'll slow you down just enough to miss divine windows of opportunity. When God removes someone, it is because he knows where he's taking you. And not everyone can handle the altitude of your calling. What's coming requires you to be unhindered, unbound, and surrounded by those who can walk in step with heaven's pace for your life. Divine rejection is divine protection. He will break your heart to save your soul. When God says no, it is not a denial of your worth, it is a defense of your destiny. There are some people you prayed for, cried over, and hoped would stay, but they left. And while you were grieving their absence, heaven was celebrating your deliverance. Because not every closed door is a curse. Some are covered in grace. God saw what you didn't see. He heard the conversations behind your back, saw the motives of the heart, and discerned what your emotions could not detect. So he stepped in, not with permission, but with purpose. Rejection hurts because it touches the deepest parts of our identity, our longing to be wanted, to be chosen, to be enough. But the truth is, sometimes God allows the heartbreak because he's rescuing something eternal inside of you. He breaks the emotional bond to restore your spiritual alignment. He tears apart the connection to save the covenant he placed in your soul before you were even born. You thought he was your future. God knew he was your detour. Divine protection often disguises itself in pain because growth rarely feels good while it's happening. But God is not sentimental about your future. He is strategic. He will protect the purity of your calling, even if it means letting your heart break in the process. Not because he is cruel, but because he is committed. He knows the cost of compromised purpose. And he loves you too much to let your destiny be entangled in something beneath it. So when you feel the sting of rejection, remember, it's not because you were unworthy. It's because your soul was too valuable to be wasted on someone who couldn't carry its weight. That heartbreak was the hand of God pulling you back into alignment. Your value is not validated by being chosen by man, but by being set apart by God. The world teaches women that to be desired is to be worthy, that to be chosen by a man somehow confirms your identity. But heaven does not operate by emotional flattery. It operates by divine appointment. Being chosen by man may make you feel seen for a moment, but being set apart by God means you are known, called, and positioned for eternity. When God sets you apart, it's not because you're lacking, it's because you're carrying too much to be placed anywhere carelessly. Too often women wrap their worth around relationships, waiting for someone to say, I choose you, so they can finally feel whole. But a woman of destiny is not waiting to be picked. She knows she was sent. She is not hoping for validation. She is walking in revelation. And that revelation says, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I was known before I was formed. I was chosen before I was born. This identity is not built on romance. It is rooted in purpose. Being overlooked by man does not equal being rejected by God. Sometimes God allows you to be passed over so he can protect the oil on your life. Not everyone has the spiritual maturity to recognize what you carry. Some men will want your beauty, but can't handle your anointing. Others will love your presence, but fear your power. So God in his sovereignty hides you. He covers you not to punish, but to preserve. The one who is set apart must walk a different path. It's not lonely because you're unworthy. It's sacred because you're called. And when you truly know your value in God, being chosen by man becomes a bonus, not the basis of your identity. Letting go is not a loss. It's an alignment with divine order. So many hold on to relationships, not because they are right, but because they are familiar. The soul clings to what it's used to, even if it's unhealthy. But the spirit within you knows when something no longer fits the blueprint of heaven. Letting go, then, is not weakness. It's wisdom. It is the moment your heart finally bows to God's plan instead of your own preference. When you release what was never ordained, you're not losing, you're aligning, you're shifting from emotion to purpose, from fear to faith. God does not require you to carry what he never assigned. Many are emotionally burdened, spiritually tired, and mentally scattered, not because they are doing wrong, but because they are holding on to what God has already removed his hand from. When you let go, you are not quitting, you are obeying. You are saying, Lord, not my will, but yours be done. There's a divine order in the kingdom. Every connection, every relationship, every moment is meant to fit within God's timing and structure. And when you are walking with someone who refuses to honor that order, you begin to experience friction in your soul. Your peace disappears. Your clarity fades. That is not love. That is misalignment. And God will not allow his daughters to remain in relationships that disrupt the rhythm of his voice in their lives. Letting go is not always about what is bad, it's about what is not God. Good intentions do not make a relationship divine. You release not because it's broken, but because it's not built on covenant. And the moment you let go, heaven responds. The weight lifts, the confusion ends. Because alignment brings acceleration, and you cannot accelerate holding on to what is delaying you. God doesn't just want you happy, he wants you whole. And wholeness sometimes requires holy separation. We often chase happiness thinking it is the ultimate goal of life. But happiness, when disconnected from wholeness, is shallow and temporary. God's agenda for your life is not simply to make you feel good, it's to make you complete. And to be complete in him, you must be willing to let go of anything that fractures your identity, silences your purpose, or contaminates your spirit. Sometimes that means being separated from someone you once thought you couldn't live without. Wholeness is not the absence of pain, but the presence of peace, rooted in God. And for many, that peace is delayed because they are emotionally entangled with someone who was never meant to walk with them to destiny. The man may have broad moments of happiness, but those moments came at the cost of spiritual clarity. God will never compromise your wholeness for your comfort. If something or someone is standing in the way of your full healing, full calling, full purpose, he will sever the tie, not to hurt you, but to complete you. Holy separation is the divine process of pruning. God removes what feels good to make room for what is good. It disconnects you from distractions so you can reconnect with him. It may feel like loss, but it is divine surgery. God is pulling you out of false security and drawing you into true identity, because the joy of the Lord is not found in attachment, it is found in alignment. And true alignment sometimes means walking alone for a season so that your soul can be restored without interference. When God is after your wholeness, he will remove whatever makes you dependent on anything less than him. Some relationships are seasonal, not covenantal. Stop giving lifetime access to temporary people. One of the greatest sources of heartbreak is the inability to discern the difference between a divine assignment and a passing interaction. Not every person who enters your life is meant to stay. Some were sent to teach you, to grow you, to refine you, and once their purpose is fulfilled, they are meant to exit. The danger comes when we try to make seasonal people permanent fixtures in our lives. We confuse presence with permanence. But just because someone came into your life with intensity doesn't mean they came with intention. God, in his wisdom, operates through seasons. He allows certain individuals to walk with you for a time to mirror something back to you or to push you into a deeper awareness of who you are. But when that time is up, clinging to the connection becomes costly. You start compromising your peace, negotiating your values, and delaying your progress. Why? Because you gave covenant space to someone who was only supposed to walk with you for a chapter, not the entire book. You must protect your soul by being a good steward of access. Everyone should not have unlimited entry to your heart, your mind, or your purpose. Boundaries are not bitterness, they are clarity. They help you preserve what is holy. And when you begin to recognize who is seasonal, you can release without regret. You can bless them and let them go, knowing that your destiny does not depend on their presence, but ordains covenant, not confusion. Covenant builds, strengthens, and aligns with his plan, but seasonal people often distract, derail, or demand energy that should be invested in your growth. Wisdom is learning to appreciate the role people play without forcing them into positions they were never anointed to fill. Your future is too powerful to be held hostage by a counterfeit connection. There is a weight to your calling, a significance to your purpose, and a divine assignment attached to your name. When God created you, he placed within you gifts, vision, and legacy that were never meant to be wasted on relationships that drain, distract, or detour. But the danger of a counterfeit is that it looks close enough to the real thing to be convincing until it starts costing you your peace, your clarity, and your alignment. A counterfeit man may speak the right words, mimic spiritual language, even show signs of affection, but his presence doesn't unlock destiny, it delays it. When you stay connected to what is false, you forfeit time. Time is one of the most precious currencies of purpose. And every day you spend entangled with someone who cannot handle your anointing is a day lost in potential. A counterfeit connection is not always abusive or loud. Often it is subtle, emotionally comfortable, yet spiritually corrosive. It keeps you busy, but not fruitful. It keeps you hopeful, but never progressing. And while your heart is trying to make it work, heaven is waiting for you to release what was never yours. God will never allow the future he designed for you to be held hostage by someone who cannot honor your worth. That's why he will break it, expose it, or remove it. Because he knows What's ahead requires full capacity, not divided attention. What's coming in your life demands partners who are not just emotionally available, but spiritually aligned. You were not made to carry kingdom vision while entertaining emotional confusion. Your future is too powerful. Your legacy is too valuable, and your calling is too sacred to be tethered to anything counterfeit. Listen to me, when God breaks your heart, He's not being cruel. He's being intentional. He is more committed to your purpose than your preferences. He is more invested in your destiny than your temporary desires. You may not understand the pain now, but one day you'll thank Him for every no, every closed door, every man who walked away. Because what felt like rejection was actually redirection. He wasn't removing love, He was restoring vision. God is calling you higher. And elevation requires separation. He won't let you take Egypt into the promised land. He won't let you carry dead weight into a divine season. That heartbreak didn't break you, it built you. It purified your discernment. It deepened your prayer life. It sharpened your standards. And now you don't just know who you are, you know whose you are. So stop mourning over what God already buried. Stop waiting for someone to come back when heaven has already moved forward. This is not the time to chase what left. It's the time to rise into what's next, because your future, your purpose, your destiny is far too powerful to be tied to anything less than God's best. He broke your heart to save your soul. Now walk like a woman who knows she was rescued by grace, separated by purpose, and chosen for something far greater